Hello, my name is Dr. Maya Byfield. My business is The Phenomenal STEMist. I'm so excited to be here in Orange County because it's where I live. I live in Apopka, Florida. And I decided to make this business because I saw a need for underrepresented students to be successful in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, math. And the best way I can do that is just provide products for parents to prepare them, whether it's a book or online STEM camps or just video podcasting. My goal is to transform this community, especially those who are underrepresented. And the way to do that is to help parents understand their children's minds and basically develop them at different stages of their lives to be prepared for a successful STEM career. Thank you so much. That's why I'm here. Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Phenomenal STEMist. I am so excited for today's interview. Hi, Jenell Pizarro, how are you?
I am amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And this is going to be a great topic. It's going to be a great interview. It's called Software Engineering with somebody who is in love with accessibility. But before we start this interview, I don't know who just came on, but you're not getting put on. I want to remind you, please subscribe to Phenomenal STEMist or AKA Dr. Maya Byfield on YouTube. Please do me a favor and do that. Um, Also, the book Phenomenal STEMist is on available on Amazon right now, so feel free to check it out. Let's see who's here. I see a couple people on. Of course, it's my number one fan. My mother is on watching. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So, Janelle, how are you?
I am incredible. I am just honestly just super happy to be here.
Thank you.
Just
And I'm happy that you're here. Janelle went to Flagler College and got her degree in broadcast communications. Broadcast communications. She transitioned into coding and via a boot camp called Iron Yard. So I'm excited about this whole process because many people feel they have to go to Ivy League institutions and major in computer science. And you're showing me that is, and them, everybody who's watching, that is not necessarily the case. So thanks so much. We're going to jump right in, unless you want to say something.
no, that's absolutely not. Let's go for it.
All right. So, first question. When did you fall in love with your discipline?
Um, it wasn't early on, that's for sure. A lot of people seem to kind of just fall in love with it almost immediately. And I kind of fell into it through I was a makeup artist. Oh my gosh, I'm a liar. Not a makeup artist. I was a bartender. My gosh, doing my own makeup, right? And so I thought I was a makeup artist, and and I really, was getting kind of out of track with my own makeup, and was like, I'm just gonna learn how to code. It'll be fine. I could build an app. I could do this. It'll be great. And it's really hard to learn how to code by yourself. And so, I went to the Iron Yard and it just worked for me. Like initially, like the first week was like, okay, cool. Like this is hard. And then the second week was like, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Why did I do this to myself? I hate it. And then after a while, it just became kind of second, like a part of me. Like a good 3 weeks in, I was like, okay, so I just wake up, eat breakfast, code, and then take a break, and then code, and then code, and then code. Like literally, that was just my life, and it just became like second nature. So that when I left the boot camp, it felt weird to not code in my spare time. I got time back because I wasn't coding anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. That it was just like, oh wow, like I think I might love this. I think this is really cool. And so I actually was going out to like meetups and things like that to try to code more because it was super fun. So yeah, it took me a couple months, but once you realize like that you're aching for it, almost like you need water, um, that's when it's like, okay, all right, this is it for me.
Wow. So you were a bartender working probably heavy amounts of hours. You were doing your makeup yourself and you just transitioned. Let me code. Like, were you trying to make an app to teach people how to make, like, what type of app were you trying to create?
Yeah, so I was trying to make an application to manage my makeup because a really cool thing that a lot of people don't know about makeup and about skincare products and basically anything that you put on your body, it has an expiration date. So if you look at the back, there'll be like a little jar that'll say like a number with an M or with a D or anything like that, right? So your makeup has an expiration date when you open it. It also has an expiration date from when it was manufactured. So I was either buying too many of the same color, and that was like, all right, why do I have the same brown over and over again lipstick? That's a problem that I still have to this day. I will buy the same brown lipstick, and I'm just like, oh, it's just so beautiful. So it's either that, or you would have, a lipstick or a mascara or an eyeliner for way too long, and that you can get really sick from those
Sick
kinds of things.
bacteria.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, most people don't know that eyeliner only lasts 3 months after you open it. So that's an immediate like, and mascara too, right? So anything that you put on your eye is only lasts 3 months after you open it and put it with direct contact with your eye. So yeah, that was a thing that I wanted to manage. I wanted to be able to be like, okay, great, all of my makeup is clean. I'm not buying the same shades of brown. And I can keep an inventory of all of my makeup where I know exactly where it is. So if I left, my lip gloss in the car, it's in the car, and I know exactly where to find it. So that's kind of what I sought out to make, which is pretty cool. And
I, I I love this story because it's so, I, not to be sexist, but it's so girly, right?
yeah.
And and you're incorporating in coding with us, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the major things why I was excited for you coming on today, because too many times coding, engineering, these types of fields have been pigeonholed into a certain type of person,
Hmm.
and only these things are considered technology and engineering. But you incorporating organizing your makeup with an engineering problem to solve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
And
so that's what engineering is, solving a problem, even if it's making sure makeup is not expiring and buying too many.
yeah, yeah. Engineering is literally only about solving problems, and those problems could not even be major problems. They could just be like, you know what? Honestly, like I keep not putting the filter in my refrigerator, and I need a reminder to put a filter in my refrigerator. And to solve an engineering problem like that, that's a problem, right?
Right.
So you make something about it, right? You either create an if this then that. You create a reminder on your phone. But if that's not working, like you give yourself like other notifications, and like doing things like that and solving a problem for just you is still engineering, and it's completely valid.
Love it. Love it. So you were in communications in college,
Hmm.
right? And then you transitioned to a boot camp through your own life's journey,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What tools did you use, whether at Flagler or at the boot camp? We can talk about it really in the boot camp. You could explain the. I would love for you to explain the boot camp concept as well.
Yeah.
What tools did you use to discipline yourself to succeed in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Flagler, I did broadcast communications and theater. And so my computer skills were enough to write papers and give presentations. And that's about it. And so when, you know, everybody did MySpace, kind of like if you were raised up with that in your life. That was basically the only amount of coding. And then I had Lego Lab one time when I was in middle school, and that was super, super fun. Lego Lab being like you could make little robots out of Lego, and then you could code little cute little things for them. That was super fun. And then I never got to code any time after that. And so all of my coding skills were either right before I went to boot camp or at boot camp. And before boot camp, I had a friend in my life who was just like, hey, I know how to code, and I think you would really enjoy it. And so he was like, hey, let me teach you a little bit of Ruby. And so I sat down for 2 hours and I was like, I'm going to use my Linux computer that I have at my availability, which was like 90 years old. It was very old computer. And it had to be plugged into the wall because if you took it off of the wall, it would shut down
It was shut
immediately.
down. I know
Yeah,
those. I know that
hey,
type.
it was
Battery
ridiculous.
done.
Oh
Battery's
my gosh,
done.
wild. And so, yeah, so I tried to do a little bit of Ruby, and I was like, I hate this. This is the worst. What did this do? This did nothing. And so then I spent time with books. So I used any book that I found in the library. Typically, I would start with like books that were geared towards children because I mean I'm just learning, and like children's books for learning things are so nice to be able to just grasp the concept and then move forward from there. So I grabbed a children's JavaScript programming book from the library, and that was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And that's when I decided, okay, maybe I want to do front end and not back end as a coding experience. And so going through the boot camp. So a boot camp is a course for however long. So some are 3 months long, some are 6 months long. They could go up to a year, I believe. And mine was a 3 month long course. And essentially, the concept of it is we're going to give you skills that you can use to create your own like apps or introduce you to code. If you As a side note, if you ever look at a boot camp and you think this is the means to get a job, that might not work for you.
Hmm.
I think for as a boot camp, thinking of it as this is a skill that I am learning and that I'm acquiring through hard work and effort, then that's the kind of way to like perceive and think about boot camps. So that's kind of how I went through it, is whatever I put in is what I was going to get out of it. And so I made sure that every single day I was there. I actually moved 2 hours away from my home so that I had no distractions. So the only thing I could do was code, eat, sleep. That's it. I did nothing else. And so I spent those 3 months quite literally 60 to 80 hours a week coding, learning new things, learning about HTML, learning about JavaScript. And then every single day and every single week we had a project. So the single days were very small projects. And at the end of the week, so every Monday, we would have to present a larger project. So
Yeah.
a website or a tool that we were using, something like that, right?
You were
And
doing work. You were doing
yeah, it
hard
was
work.
hard. And, at the end of those 12 weeks, I built that makeup app for myself using Firebase and JavaScript, specifically React. And that was like I was so proud of myself. Like I can't even tell you, right? Now I look at that piece of code and I'm like, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I was so proud of it. And with boot camps, like um, when you do put in that effort and that love into yourself. That's what I think boot camps are really positive about. When you put that work into yourself and you love yourself and you put in that hard work, you do get what you put out of it. And
Results.
yeah, it's awesome for sure.
So what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, you have to put in the work. So people who are saying, "Oh, I don't need college. I'm gonna do a boot camp," meaning I don't need to do school. Boot camp is school.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
still school. It still requires the same requirements that school requires. You have to show up. You have to show up on time. You have to eliminate distractions. You move 2 hours away. I moved to the country of
Hmm.
Alabama. 18 hours away from New York, right? You had to do the work in and out. You had to develop. The only difference is that the beauty of the boot camp and these certification programs, what they do is they give you a specific skill set that you can use in the job. You
Yep.
can It's not going to get you a job, but it gets you the skill that many jobs need.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is definitely the foundation, right? Because the goal is that the second you graduate that boot camp, the second, not like, a week later, 2 weeks later, the second you graduate, you're still working. That you're starting to lay those bricks, right? Because they gave you that foundation, but if you're not laying bricks, you're
Mhm.
not creating that beautiful, like that strong, solid you that is going to give you that job, that role, and it's going to give you that personality of what you want to do specifically in engineering. For example, like for me, like I really love accessibility, and I didn't get to that at the boot camp. I got to
Right.
that through meeting other people after boot camp and talking to other people and doing workshops with other people and finding that, like, that was how I got into accessibility. So yeah.
Right. So another tool I'm hearing, and I heard it earlier, you had went to meetups. So
Hmm.
you use a lot of networking.
A lot of networking, a lot of networking. I almost, and I think I spoke about this recently. I almost burnt myself completely out because I was going to meetups so often, and even ended up running meetups because I felt like I had such a beautiful community, and I wanted to see more people like me, people who weren't necessarily, wearing their tech hoodies and jeans to meetups. Like I wanted people to not ask me whose girlfriend I was. Like I wanted people to say, "Oh, is Jenell your girlfriend?" Like that's kind of the goal that I wanted. And so like I really really went hard, and I try to meet as many people as I could and learn from them because everybody in the community has something to offer.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's so critical. I go to meetups. I met you at a Black Orlando Tech, which is an example of a meetup,
Yeah.
and I'm getting connections in my research program because of somebody I met just a person who just sat next to me at the table.
Yep.
Listen, moving towards your career, it's not. This is for the people who are smart. This is for the people who have good grades and feel like just because they have good grades and they went to a certain type of school, say they should automatically get a job. That's not how it works, my friends. You got to
Hmm.
acquire skills. You got to acquire skills, and you have to be able to network with people. That's going to move you in your career path. All right.
Absolutely.
Next question. What were your challenges in school?
Do we want to be like super real here or like
Let's
kind of real?
this is all real, uncensored real, pink
So
haired real.
a pink-haired realness. Okay.
Yes.
So some of my challenges that I had, a really big one was the boot camp required a Mac, and I had no like a MacBook, and I was just like, I have no idea how to use this. I've never had an expensive laptop in my life, and I started my coding skills on that Linux like laptop that I just had available to me. So like I was using CodePen, I was using CSS tricks, those kinds of things, just to kind of. I was even like opening up my inspector and kind of being able to kind of just open up that. So I using that as a tool was like really weird to me and really wild. So I was like, how is that working? So that was a really big weirdness for me. Also, being a woman was kind of hard. And I know that sounds really weird, and people are like, that's not that difficult. But it kind of was. So having to reach out to people and just being like, hey, like, I don't need you to do this work for me. Like, I just actually am trying to learn,
Right.
was something that kind of was difficult starting out, was that, and that wasn't the best. And people taking me seriously was another huge obstacle. I know that not in my first job. My first job was absolutely phenomenal. But a lot of jobs in between my first job and the job that I have now, um, I was very much looked at like as not intelligent, as not a hard worker. And because, I don't know if it was the pink hair or what it was, but yeah, it was really, really challenging to have to prove myself. And
Yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like to use that syndrome word because I really don't believe in it. But well, it's real, but I don't want to speak it. But I see, it's a constant. People look at you. I mean, even to this day, I walk. I spoke at a graduation, and I had my 3 stripes, and I was getting security checked like I was a stranger.
That's
No,
wild.
I've walked in with people with less degrees than me, and I'm the one saying, they're the one talk. Do you belong here?
Like, my name is actually right there. It's on the
It's on the,
it's
it's
on the
on the
thing. It's on the
program. It's
program.
it's on the program.
It's the very first one, actually. It's the very first one. Like, I'm the keynote.
Oh my god!
Me.
Oh my god! It's a struggle.
Hmm.
It's a struggle to face that as a
Yeah.
woman, as a person of color, and there's so and it's extra pressure. Like like you said, you have to put your extra stress on yourself to try to learn,
Hmm.
to get
Yeah.
into a group of people that because you work in groups. You just said learning code is difficult to do alone.
Hmm.
So you need to do it
Absolutely.
in a group setting. But if the group setting doesn't believe you belong there, then how?
Yeah. No, there was a time I remember I was like, I think week 7 or something in the boot camp. And I started asking questions of like, okay, so what is the strategy for looking for jobs after this? And someone said out loud, they were like, you should be fine. You're a black woman. They're gonna hire you. And I was just like, that's wild to me. Like, wild. Like, you said the quiet part out loud, sir. Like, what? It was just it's wild how people just really think like that.
And it's gotten exponentially worse.
And just louder. I think that's the problem
It's
too. It's like
gotten louder.
it's gotten louder, and you would think that, like, like, oh, you're just gonna say all of that with your chest. Okay, cool, cool. Love that for you.
That's perfect. It has gotten louder. It used to be done in whispers. It
Mhm.
used to be we call it used to be dog whistles,
Mhm.
right? It's no more dog whistles. It's
Yeah.
blatant. It's back
Yeah.
out.
It's mega horns now.
Whoa. Yeah, so those are the challenges that we face, and it's real, and I hope the people in industry hear this and realize, we have to make changes if we want to diversify this very important field. Okay. So, I want your challenges now. Before you tell me what your challenges now are, I want you to really tell me what you actually do. Like if you were to explain to someone what you do on a, let's say, on a day-to-day basis. This is what I do on a typical day.
Yeah. So on a day-to-day basis, so right now I work at an amazing, phenomenal company that I love so much called Netlify. And right now, currently, like as of this moment, I'm currently on call. So if anything were to happen, I'd have to be like, hey, we got to pause a bit because the entire app fell. But that's not likely going to happen. But essentially, what I do is I work on a team called Accounts and Billing. So we handle all of the accounts for the entire organization, which is kind of cool. So we're in charge of like creating new features that are account specific features, which is basically almost everything, which is super cool. So like that's what I do now. It is a more challenging thing that I've done ever in my career because it isn't necessarily just accessibility focused. It's more about the whole. So it is very JavaScript heavy. It is very looking at patterns and making sure that you are either following patterns or creating new patterns and always fighting your case. So it feels like I am proving myself through code. I don't know if y'all have ever done like geometry or anything like that in school. And you know how you always had to fight for your proofs.
Proofs.
That's exactly what it feels like on my day to day. Is like I am proving that this is true or not true. So I'm a little more removed from code because of my position now, but I'm still coding every single day, which is kind of nice. So what I did before through like to get here though was a lot of accessibility and a lot of learning about accessibility. And the reason why I'm at the point where I'm at now at Netlify is because I wanted to enhance my JavaScript skills, my core JavaScript skills, rather than just my HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills to make things more accessible.
Okay,
So
before we
this,
get
yes,
into that, so
sorry.
JavaScript, CSS, many people don't know what that is. These are computer languages that create the things that we see on our screen as computers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So the front end, essentially, when we boil it down to maybe just a sentence or two, is all the cool, pretty things you see or that you can interact with because, you know, some people can't see them. So anything that you can interact with, you know, right there is going to be your front end. And anything that displays or gives you that to display is going to be the back end. So anything that's going to be very logic heavy usually should be in the back end. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's in the front end and it shouldn't be
It
there.
confuses us.
But it should definitely be in the back end. So things like databases, so a collection of items are going to be on the back end. But yeah, all the pretty things are in the front.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. So you were learning all kinds of different types of code languages to on the
yeah.
back end so that everybody can see um beautiful things on the front end. And in your case, your current job is accounts and billing. So like if I'm trying to understand what you do, like if I go on Citibank and
Mhm.
see my account, see how it's displayed on the screen. You in charge of creating the code and language to make sure it's displayed that way? Is that what
Oh,
you're saying you do?
that's actually a really great like analogy because so
Okay.
I used to once upon a time work for banks, so that's pretty cool. Um,
Okay.
so let's say that you have a an account with Citibank, and you only have the one account. You have a checking
Checking.
account, and it's like the most basic checking account. Like you put in your money, you take it out when you need it, and that's really it. And you maybe have direct deposit, right? So that is the bare necessity for a checking account. So I would show like as a developer, I would show you only things that are related to your specific account because your account is the basic level account. I would only show you that. If you had a more advanced account or you had more features, then it is my responsibility to make sure that you
You
see
see
those
them.
features or that you're marketed towards other features that are more expensive so that you could buy those instead.
Got it.
Yeah.
I see what you do. I see what you do for a living. Wow. So like, and that's all back end stuff, guys. That's all back end stuff. Okay, so explain to me what accessibility is and how it led you to where you were. Like, because it's now not.
Yeah.
I noticed you said it's not just what you see, because there's some,
Hmm.
like you say, can't see. So there has to be other means via computer. Because now we're using the computer like crazy, but there are people that may not have access to the computer because they can't see. So accessibility is what?
Yeah, so accessibility is a means, well, as it pertains to the internet, is a
Mm-hmm.
means to use the internet through any kind of tools that you may or may not need for your specific use case, right? And so that could mean that you are um, uh, hearing impaired, right? So if you are hard of hearing or you are deaf, right, and you cannot hear, or there's very minimal hearing, or you have hearing loss, right? We don't necessarily want to display things that are going to be loud and in your face and are just sound, because that's not going to be a way that you can consume that media or that bit of the internet, right? So if you're playing a game and that game only relies on sound for you to get to the next level, that game is inaccessible. So just like, let's say that we are in a website and you have the website is a form, and that form is a set of, it's like a test, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see, when you get something right, it'll turn green.
Green.
And then when you get something wrong, it turns red. That's not necessarily accessible to people who might have different seeing capabilities in color or just sight capabilities in general, right? So that's going to be really difficult. So you have to make sure that you are including everybody when you create things on the internet. So you want to make sure that people who can and cannot see, the people who can and cannot hear, the people who are short, tall, are uh, birthing parents, are not birthing parents, who have, one child, have children, have 48 children, are, doing math while they're taking care of their, spouse, whatever the case might be, that they're able to use your product no matter what. So yeah, with whatever tools that they can and should be using. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense, and it's so important seeing that we are heavy in this information age, this technology age, especially as a college professor, it's been huge for us in our system. I have to the June 30th to really get myself fully accessible. Like all my videos now have captions, and because you don't realize how we've instantly transitioned online. So many of our institutions since COVID, and we said we just transitioned, but we transitioned without thinking of everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
we're and the world has transitioned this way without thinking of everyone. And there's a benefit to accessibility. If everybody can see and hear and touch and feel and whatever your stuff, you're more likely to get buyers and profitability. So
Yeah, absolutely.
accessibility leads to profitability, pretty much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, I mean, and morally speaking, it's just, it isn't that what you want, right? In general, is to be able to like make sure that everybody can read that information, right? That everybody can consume what they need to consume, because the internet is a basic human right at this point,
Yeah.
right? It's not
Yeah.
just, oh,
Yeah.
this is fun, right? But like, the internet is how people find their partners. The internet is how they get groceries. The internet is how, you find entertainment, right? So it is a basic human right for,
Spirituality.
yeah, really anything you can find on the internet, which is beautiful and also scary, but it's that's how we humans communicate with each other. And if there are uh, people who cannot communicate, that you're removing that basic human right for them. And that's not cool, you know?
Yeah.
And so the thing that really got me into accessibility was for sure that I got to hear a talk at a conference, and this person said, okay, let's imagine that we're all together collectively building an app, right? And our boss says, I would like this app to be shown in every single state in the United States, right? And you're like, okay, great, I love that. Let's do this. And then the accessibility engineer goes, okay, but it won't be shown in New York, the entire state of New York. And you're like, but okay, why not New York? Well, I mean, you've already made it to the point where like we can't show it in New York. We have to show it in 49 other states. Is that okay with you? And you're like, but New York is so big. It's so large. It's a big, it's a mecca for a lot of people, right? For, culture and people and everything, right? Like, but it can't be shown in New York. And yeah, your accessibility person is like, yeah, absolutely. It can't be shown in New York. And so no company is going to say, oh, you know what? That's fine.
That's fine.
They're going to be like, absolutely not.
It's the fourth largest state in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was like a big alert for me, right? Like that was huge because they said, so the amount of people who at that time identified as like, or, said that they were disabled are the amount of people who live in the state of New York.
Boom. Boom.
And I was like, oh my God, we are not doing a service to these amazing human beings.
Right.
And like, that was immediately when it was like, okay, I have to do this. Like, this is, not only was it like, it was interesting for me before, but like, that was when I was like, this is important. And like, we all should be doing this. So yeah.
Absolutely. We all should be doing this in every facet of life, every career path. Accessibility has to be in the front, especially internet. Just in the I think accessibility has been important for us in certain things. Many times, physical. Like making sure that all buildings have ramps and handicap areas, and in New York we used to have braille signs to know where the stops were. We've as a country, we've compared to other countries, we've been great in trying to, make sure, there's access in certain things. But I think because computer has shifted so fast, I don't think we thought of everyone, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. So what are your challenges in this career path?
Yeah, so I think my number one challenge is facing my ableism every single day, right? It is looking at a mirror and being like, I am an able-bodied person. How do I make my language more accessible? How do I make my, the people that I'm coding for, that I'm creating these things for, how do I let them use the product just as as they should, as they're entitled to, right, and not be an ableist person. But yeah, it's confronting my ableism every single day. Like, I know that I'm gonna watch this back and be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. That was an ableist thing I said. And that is a really, really hard thing, because it's not about saying, oh, woe is somebody who has disabilities, or woe is the person who is situationally disabled, right? Woe is somebody who has been disabled since birth, or woe is somebody who's been disabled since 20 seconds ago, right? Like, that's not the point of creating accessible interfaces. The point is that everyone, no matter what, deserves access to the internet. So I think that is the biggest struggle. And then after that is that accessibility is really, it's both very hard and very simple. So the reason why it's hard is because most of the time, and I'm even going to say almost 10 times out of 10, not exactly 10 times out of 10, but almost 10 times out of 10, people, especially engineers, do not build with everyone in mind. They
Yeah.
build with themselves in mind.
Wow.
And that is really hard to fix, right? So making something accessible from the beginning benefits everyone. So doing it from the beginning like that is it is a lot more simpler. It's a lot simpler to just start from being an inclusive engineer from the get go, and that just doesn't happen. And so, what I find myself doing, and a lot of engineers who love accessibility find themselves doing, is having to fix things and having to make kind of like this or that kind of decisions every day to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe we don't have this button so prominent, but at least this way the screen reader can do all this, that, and the other, right? So the screen reader can go through, and somebody who's using a screen reader as a tool to browse our website would be able to use it, but the button might not be as prominent. So like you're making these kinds of like weighted decisions all the time, and that's not really fun.
When it
So
could have been done from the get go.
right, yeah. So that's I think the hardest part. And so and then the third thing being the hardest is like learning about accessibility is dense. It's like
Yeah.
reading a textbook that was in a language that you remember as a child, but you haven't practiced as an adult, right? So it's like reading all of that because it almost looks like legal documentation. So some of that can really like get really heavy, and you're like, do I need to do this? And the answer is yes. The answer is you do need to read those specs. The answer is you do need to make it accessible. But sometimes it is, oof,
It's
it can be
tough.
hard.
It's hard. Speaking as someone who's been working on making my things accessible, it can be a little bit frustrating, and you don't want to be ableist, to your
Mm-hmm.
point. Um but like you said, and I think this is very powerful what you said. You said that we have to not look at a lot of the things from ourselves. We teach from our with ourself in mind. We doctor with ourself in mind. We nurse with ourself in mind. We do accounting. M- We have to like eliminate selfishness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have to basically, you know, put ourselves low and think about the other person ahead of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
This is a spiritual concept actually. And it's very difficult because listen, as I said before, when you're in the process of doing these things, you feel as if, why am I doing all of this? There's not a lot. But what you just said is, at that time, the number of disabled people, based on those who actually said they were, was the size of New York City. And I think we come from a place where we feel everybody is like us. Everybody is quote unquote able, and
Yep.
so therefore I'm doing all of this for a very minute amount of people. I think that has to be the mindset shift for many of us,
Yeah,
and we have to
absolutely.
literally not think that we're creating things for people like ourselves, but there are a plethora of people, and we need to really think about them.
Yeah, and I think really a thing that people forget about disability is that um, everyone can and has experienced disability in their life,
Yeah.
right? Everyone, right? So
Yeah.
if you haven't, that's really weird. I don't like, who are
Mhm.
you? Um, but yeah, for sure, you've definitely experienced disability, and whether that is a situational disability where you've
Situational.
broken your hand, you've broken your
Tore a
foot,
meniscus.
yeah, those are situational disabilities, right? And so like let's say
Yeah.
you
Testing.
you broke your thumb, right?
Mhm.
How do you operate your keyboard now that you don't have your right thumb? that is a situational disability, right?
Yeah.
But there's also larger disability. It doesn't matter the size of disability. It is
Yeah.
you. Everybody has experienced it in their life. Like, holding a baby while doing your Zoom call is a situational disability, and because you have to manage being able to do whatever you're doing with
With one
this
hand.
one hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, like, think about, like, everybody, like, every single person needs accessibility, like, every single person. It doesn't matter whether they are situationally disabled, they are permanently disabled, they will never be disabled. It doesn't matter. Every single person needs accessibility, period, point blank, because it makes
Period.
the internet easier to use and to consume.
This is the mindset we need to have. This is why this is coming from Sophia. Shout out to all the people who are watching. Good to see you guys. This is why I think it's a good idea to survey and work with other able people in product design. It's hard to think about all the things that would help, so invite them to share and give input. That's yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We got to work with people. That's why, you know, this concept of engineers are, this type of person and this type of person, they don't work well with people, and oh, since you work well with people, oh, you should be a counselor. How many times African Americans have wanted to be engineers, but they're so friendly and they've been told, oh, you're such a friendly person, try social work. Get that. We need people who have that mindset as engineers as well. This concept
Yep.
of one dimensional type of engineer needs to go away. Here's
Yeah.
Choi. Choi says, even if we are doing it for only 2% of our clientele, it makes a difference. They feel seen and feel important, and that is very, very important. That's so true. That's so true. Thanks, guys, for your comments. Last question. Last question. What's your favorite part of your career?
Oh man. Okay. All of it? Is that weird? Like, I love being able to be like, I love everything about it. I love coming into work. Um, I start my job at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I like, this is gonna sound weird. I yeet myself out of bed to get to work. I love my job. I love it's wild, like, it's wild how much I absolutely adore it, and that's because I feel respected in my profession. I feel respected in my role. I feel that, you know when I make a mistake, my where I'm at Netlify, which is, again, such a beautiful company, that my superiors will have my back. They'll say, you know what, a mistake happens, it's cool, like, let's sort it out, let's figure it out together, and that there's always a community, like, with you. And even when I'm not at work, like, if I'm just outside in the world and, talking to other engineers, or even talking to not other engineers, right? It's such a beautiful thing to be able to be like, yeah, like, I code, it's super cool, like, and I love being so visibly me and
Mhm.
saying that I code, because, like, I'm a pink-haired, glitterified, roller skating weirdo who codes. And so, like, that's really cool, I think, too, is because people are like, I thought you just roller skated and just lived off of vibes. Um, I'm like, like, you can live off of vibes and also be a software engineer,
Word.
like, yeah. So, it's just, I just I love being visibly me and learning and working and growing and constantly fighting my isms, right? I think engineering has really, really, really helped me address those, like, isms that we all have, right? So, like, whether that's sexism, that's ageism, that's ableism, that is racism, like, I think my role has, like, as an engineer, has really, every single day, I'm like, wow, I should really work on this. This is a new thing that I have learned about myself
Notice
that I
about
need to address.
myself.
Yeah. I like, engineering has helped me be a better human, And like, I want that for other people too. Like, this is why I want other people to code, regardless of whether, like, where you come from. If you, feel like you came from some place that's like, I've never, like, I didn't go to college, I didn't go to high school even, like, I'm not good at math, I have this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. Like, can you put in work? That's it. That's the only question that you need to ask yourself. If you can put in work, you can be an engineer. And also, you don't have to be an engineer to also do tech, right? So like, that's another thing too, is like, everyone, I think my brain is always saying everyone should learn how to code. Everyone, whether that's like, hey, I know how to reverse a string, to, I can do quantum physics in a Jupyter notebook. Doesn't matter. Like, it could be that to that, right? But I think everyone should learn how to code, because it really does put things in perspective for you on how just humanity, like, we can all be better if we all like look at everyone and we're all super inclusive. And I think engineering has brought that to me, like, for sure, is like,
Wow.
everybody is important. Um,
You're
like,
thinking. You're thinking a lot.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
thinking a lot, and
always.
you're thinking about everyone. You're thinking about everyone's problem, and that's what it sounds like to me. You think about
Beautiful.
others, you think about others' problems. You're not only thinking about yourself. And you're
Yeah.
saying engineering brought that out of you.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that any other way. I think I would have been a really morbid, sad person had I not gone into engineering. I really do think that uh, coding has saved my life in a way that like I cannot describe to you.
Wow.
And like, I thought I was going to either be on, like, my thought was either going to be on Broadway or serving Cosmos to people who were on Broadway. That's literally all I thought my life was going to amount to. And that was it. And like, at this point, like, my life is so beyond that, right? And I don't even think of myself, like, I mean, engineering has given me the space to be a human being. And like, before, I was thinking about, oh, I just want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be like, whatever, right? Like, I was thinking more of self.
Yeah.
And I think like engineering has brought me to a point where it's just like, literally, people mean so much to me, whereas they didn't before, and I don't know, I would love that blessing on other people for sure.
Awesome interview. Jenell Pizarro. I was worried. I was like, is she coming on? She came on. She came hard too. She came real. Coding has always sounded scary to me. This is Sophia saying. And I write DAX and I can read some SQL. I may have to take an intro class. I say it about me. I tried to learn code. I went on Code Academy, and it made my head hurt. I'm not gonna lie. It was just so many characters, and I just remember not enjoying it. But I tried. Maybe I'll try again. But
Okay,
you know,
I'm ready with a bunch of resources. You ready?
yeah.
It's gonna happen. Okay. My very, very first thing that I always recommend to everybody is Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp, by all means, is like the go-to for like when you're trying to figure out, do I want to do this? Or do I just want to learn a little bit? Because you could stop at any time, you could keep going at any time, and it is built by a community. It is not built by just one person. It is not built by one, just like a group of five random men in their basement just being weird and creepy. Like, that's not it. It
Mm.
is 100% community driven, and it is 100% community funded, which I think is such a beautiful thing. So a lot of people learn how to code from there, and it's amazing. So there's Free Code Camp, and then I would say Code Pen for when you are trying to kind of do larger projects. So that's a really, really fun thing to do. GitHub now has this really cool thing called code spaces. So once you start getting into those bigger projects in Free Code Camp, code spaces is going to be such a game changer for you, because you don't have to download an IDE. You don't have to set up a space. You don't have to do any of the weird front endy things of like learning how to do that if it's too overwhelming, because it is at the beginning. It is very overwhelming. So
Mhm.
Code Spaces has it just boom, already ready for you.
Okay,
Um,
so free code camp, code
yeah,
spaces. What was the other one? The one code pen?
Code Pen. Yeah, Code Pen is amazing. The cool thing about Code Pen is you can literally look at art, and art that is made out of code. And that is like, that's a, I don't know. I think when I was in boot camp, in the very middle of it, I ended up seeing this really cool like drawing of a husky. And it was just like wagging its tail and like sticking its tongue out. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so I presented it in class. I was like, look at this thing. It's amazing. It's art, but it's code. Like, look at this. It's so cute. And I was so excited about it, right? And I learned that the person who actually made that lived in my hometown. And
Mm,
so I got to meet this person because of meetups, and we got to talk about it, which is super
nice.
cool. So like you can like being able to talk, and like that person actually ended up teaching me how to do things like micro interactions, which I was completely obsessed with for a while. And that ended up like shoving me really deep into accessibility. So really without that kind of like code pen and seeing that code could be art, that was a wrap for me. Code can be art. Code
Code
can
could
be
be art.
whatever you make it to
Code could
be.
be whatever you. Code can
Yeah.
be organizing your makeup.
Yes.
That's how it
Yeah.
started. That's how it
Code can
started.
be getting your coffee on time. Like
Mhm.
it really, it's a beautiful thing. Code is amazing.
Yes, listen. This has been an awesome interview. I'm thankful. Everybody's thankful. Rosalind, shout out to Rosalind. Glad you made it. And yeah, of course, it's on the replay. And the beautiful thing about LinkedIn and YouTube, it's closed caption and it's is as accessible as I can be. So, this has been great. I am the phenomenal STEMist, and so is she. It's been amazing. Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.